First at 9.
Coming to you live and direct from the newsfirst newsroom here in Colombo, Sri Lanka. This is your prime time news bulletin. A very good evening. I'm Shane Silva.
I'm Stephanie Lazarus. Before we go into your stories in detail, let's take a look at the headlines.
The headlines on News First at 9.
Tear gas fired to contain unrest in Ninthabur.
විශේෂකාර්ය බලකා නිලධාරීන් විනය විරෝධී ලෙස එහෙම නැත්නම් අයථා කටයුතු වලට මැදිහත් වෙලා ක්‍රියා කරලා තියෙනවා නම් ඔවුන්ට විරුද්ධව කටයුතු කිරීමට අපි කිසිසේත් පසුබට වන්නේ නැහැ.
A gambling centre in Colombo 7 raided once again. And Ministry of Sports criticizes actions of the National Olympic Committee.
News First at 9.
The tense situation that prevailed in the Nindavur area has been brought under control.
The police fired tear gas as a crowd control measure. The police have arrested 21 persons.
Residents of Nindavur staged a hartal today as well, blocking the Kalmane-Potterville road. Traffic flow on the road was disrupted as a result of the hartal. The protesters ignored calls from the police for them to disperse. Subsequently, the police fired tear gas to disperse the protesters. Our reporter says it took the police about 3 hours to remove debris scattered on the road and return traffic flow to normal.
මෙහිදී සැකකරුවන් 21 දෙනෙක් අත්අඩංගුවට ගත්තා.
21 suspects were arrested. The police also seized 6 motorcycles and 21 bicycles. An offence has been committed through the blocking of the road. In addition, they have caused risk by placing burning tires on the road. It is an offence under the Public Property Act.
වැරදි පිළිබඳ පනත යටතේ වරදක් වෙනවා.
Area residents commenced this demonstration to protest a clash that broke out on the night of the 17th. The clash broke out between area residents and STF personnel. Area residents charged that the STF personnel had rescued an individual that they had captured on suspicion of being involved in several nighttime robberies in the area in the recent past. The police media spokesperson added that an investigation will also be carried out into the allegations leveled by area residents at the STF personnel.
පිළිබඳව විමර්ශනයක් අපි මේ වන විට ආරම්භ කර තිබෙනවා.
We have commenced an inquiry into this. On the instructions of the senior DIG in charge of the Eastern Province, Pujita Jayasundra, the DIG in charge of the Ampara District, V. Indran, is conducting this investigation. If this inquiry affirms that the STF personnel had in any way committed an act of indiscipline or had been involved in any improper activity, then we will not hesitate to take action against them.
පසුබට වන්නේ නැහැ.
Making a statement in the House of Commons yesterday, British Prime Minister David Cameron said he made it clear to President Rajapaksa that he has a real opportunity through magnanimity and reform to build a prosperous future for Sri Lanka.
Responding to the statement, leader of the opposition Edward Miliband said that Britain should do what it can to ensure that the truth emerges about the alleged crimes that were committed in Sri Lanka.
Mr. Speaker, the last government agreed late in 2009 to hold the 2013 Commonwealth meeting in Sri Lanka. That was not my decision, but I was determined I'd use the presence of the Commonwealth and my own visit to shine a global spotlight on the situation there, and that is exactly what I did. I became the first foreign leader to visit the north of the country since independence in 1948. And by taking the media with me, I gave the local population the chance to be heard by an international audience. Mr. Speaker, no one wants to return to the days of the Tamil Tigers and the disgusting and brutal things that they did. And we should, I believe, show proper respect for the fact that Sri Lanka suffered almost 3 decades of bloody civil conflict and that recovery and reconciliation take time. But I made clear to President Rajapaksa that he now has a real opportunity through magnanimity and reform to build a successful, inclusive and prosperous future for his country, working in partnership with the newly elected Chief Minister of the Northern Province. It is an extraordinary and beautiful country with enormous potential. Achieving that potential is all about reconciliation. It is about bringing justice and closure and healing to this country, which now has the chance, if it takes it, of a much brighter future. Mr. Speaker, I had a choice at this summit to stay away and allow President Rajapaksa to set the agenda he wanted, or to go and shape the agenda by advancing our interests with our Commonwealth partners and shining a spotlight on the international concerns about Sri Lanka. I chose to go and stand up for our values and do all I could to advance them. That was, I believe, the right decision for Sri Lanka, for the Commonwealth and for Britain, and I commend this statement to the House.
I believe this House is united in our abhorrence of terrorism and in recognising that what happened in Sri Lanka, particularly towards the end of the conflict in 2009, when tens of thousands of innocent civilians were murdered. Now let me ask him a series of questions. First, the Deputy Prime Minister said in May to this House, and I quote, "If the Sri Lankan government continues to ignore their international commitments in the lead up to the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, of course there will be consequences." Can the Prime Minister tell us what were those consequences for the Sri Lankan government? Second, at the summit on Friday, the Prime Minister called for the Sri Lankan government, as he said, to initiate an independent inquiry by March into allegations of war crimes. But by Sunday, President Rajapaksa had already appeared to reject this. Mr. Speaker, the legacy of human rights abuses in Sri Lanka is in contradiction to the good traditions of the Commonwealth. We believe we cannot let the matter rest. Britain must do what it can to ensure that the truth emerges about the crimes that were committed so there can be justice for those who have suffered so much. When the government acts to make that happen, we will support them.
He asked specifically on Sri Lanka whether we pressed for our agenda. Yes, we did, very directly, on the importance of land reform, on the importance of human rights, on the importance of an independent inquiry. Now, of course, some other leaders decided to stay away, and everyone must take their own decision, but frankly, no country on earth has a more direct relationship with the Commonwealth than this one, and that's why it is right to go. And I have to say to him, if he's concerned about the rights of Tamils, as I am, and reconciliation, the right thing to do is go and shine a spotlight on their plight. You can't do that sitting at home.
You can watch the full statement made by British Prime Minister David Cameron and the response given by opposition leader Edward Miliband on our website www.newsfirst.lk. Alternatively, you could also visit our YouTube channel.
A number of incidents that occurred during Chogam 2013. Channel 4 journalists faced with protest en route to Jaffna.
We are travelling up north because we have been invited by the Sri Lankan government and we have been told that we can travel wherever we want. So we are trying to travel wherever we want.
I expected a majority in Sri Lanka to stage major protests when they were coming to Sri Lanka.
A parliamentarian enters a media briefing open to local and foreign journalists.
Yes, good evening to all of you. My name is A.H.M. Azwa, a citizen of Sri Lanka, first and last. Now, there have been several questions asked from the podium, from the chair, about the human rights violation. Whose human rights have been violated very much?
A lot of bad things happen in war, and it happened, in this case, it happened on both sides. You know, listen, no, sir, you've spoken, I've heard you.
At the moment, the camera is being held by a security guard behind Duncan, who's filming, and he actually literally is being restrained. Perhaps you'd like to turn around, Duncan, and we can see who's holding you back. This gentleman keeps moving. Can you let go? Can you let go, please, sir? Why are you interfering with the freedom of the press? Why are you interfering with the freedom of the press in this way? Why?
Were the proper procedures followed in handling accredited journalists? Were such incidents unavoidable owing to the lack of qualifications of decision makers? Could these incidents have been managed better so as to receive the benefits of Sri Lanka hosting CHOGM?
An election campaign office of the JVP for the Western Provincial Council elections was declared open today.
The office in Maharagama was declared open by the JVP Politburo member KD Hilal Kanta.
I will say a few words about the Commonwealth as well. What did ministers and MPs from the government say when we were discussing this? They say it would cost some money. But what happens when they come here, overturn tables and start throwing around cutlery and crockery? There have been weddings like this in the past. What did Cameron do? He came to the wedding and acted like the relatives who toppled the table.
Let's take a quick look at the newspaper cartoon of the day.
Welcome back to the news. Several events were organized at a number of viharas yesterday in view of President Mahinda Rajapaksa's birthday.
The President participated in religious observances held at the Hunupitiya Gangarama Vihara yesterday, where members of the Mahasangha chanted Pirith, invoking blessings on the President. The President also participated in a Bodhi Puja held at the Bellambila Rajama Vihara. Religious observances were conducted by members of the Mahasangha, including the chief incumbent of the Vihara, Professor Venerable Bellanvilla Vimala Ratanathera. The President also participated in religious observances at the Vishnu Devalaya in Kalaniya, following which he had a cordial conversation with members of the public who had gathered there.
A gambling centre located down Dharmapalamavat in Colombo 7 has been raided by the police once again.
The police media unit stated that the raid was conducted based on a tip-off received by the Union Place Police.
10 persons who were gambling at the time and an individual who operated the gambling centre were taken into custody. According to the police, cash amounting to nearly 30,000 rupees were found in the possession of the suspects. The suspects were later released on police bail and were ordered to be present before the Fort Magistrates Court on the 25th of this month. The police media spokesperson said that the raid was conducted as per the instructions of the Inspector General of Police. On the 7th of this month, 23 officers who were involved in a raid conducted on this particular gambling centre were handed transfers. At that instance, the police media spokesperson said that the officers were transferred as they had served for a long period of time in the relevant division.
A group of monks engaged in a satyagraha opposite the United National Party headquarters Sirikota in Pitakote today.
The satyagraha was organized as a mark of protest against the assault on a group of monks at the UNP headquarters on the 14th of this month. Incidentally, today representatives of the UNP offered their apologies to the monks who engaged in the satyagraha opposite the UNP headquarters. We have come here to offer our apologies for anything that may have happened the other day.